smoking. Number 2, no standing up on the boat. Number 3, try to keep your arms inside the blue rails on either side here. Number 4, this is really important. Please, no running up and down the aisle. And the last one is my favorite. Y'all just kick back and relax, have a good time, okay? We're going to start your tour off this evening with a question. Did y'all get a chance to practice your Spanish before you came to San Antonio? Just in case you didn't, here's one Spanish word everybody should know when they come to San Antonio. Baños. Y'all should know where the baños is. When you gotta go, you gotta go. On that note, folks, we have a live show going on just ahead of us. I won't talk during that show. You guys feel free to clap your hands, stomp, cheer, whistle, do whatever you like.
Mariachi. We're about to meet you.
No está bien en el fuego. No se lo dieron, ahí están todavía.
That stage is known as the Honors and River Theater stage. Anybody on board see the movie Miss Congeniality?
Yeah.
On that stage back there is where they filmed the swimsuit competition part of that movie. You might recall the girls answering the question by saying world peace, world peace. That was on that stage. In fact, that little bridge right back there we came under, that was in the movie too. That's where Michael Caine, Benjamin Bratt, and Sandra Bullock stood. Being part of the FBI, they were talking over how to catch the bad guy. Now, y'all might not know it, but back in 1927, this little river almost disappeared off the face of the map. Almost became a part of history. In fact, there were a whole bunch of local businessmen around here that actually wanted to fill the river in, cover it in concrete, and make a sewer out of it. Mainly because every year, the San Antonio River flooded. They were kind of tired of the flooding. They thought, get rid of the river, we'll get rid of the flooding. Made a lot of sense. So in 1928, San Antonio was in the process of getting rid of this river when along came a young man. This young man was only 27 years old. He was an architect. His name was Robert Hugman. Well, Mr. Hugman fell in love with the river, so he went home and he mapped out a plan for the Riverwalk. Took that plan to the city council here in San Antonio. They bought it. They loved it. They ran with it. 13 years later, 1941, the Riverwalk as we know it today was born. Everything you see around you on either side of the river here, this is all 27-year-old Robert Hugman's dream come true. 27 years old. Such a young man have such a vision. Man, I'm glad he did that. Can't imagine San Antonio without a river.
Is he still alive? Is he still alive?
Yeah. 1988. Off to my right front, you'll see a sculpture. This sculpture commemorates the first Catholic Mass ever held on the river, June 13th, 1691. Now, the little piece of land this sculpture is sitting on, this is actually a little bitty island. Y'all can't tell from where you're sitting, but that little island there is shaped like a heart. And locals call this little heart-shaped island Marriage Island, because on average, 300 couples a year get married right there on the little island. People actually come from around the world to get married on this little island. And if you look real close, you can see the entire island is made up of roots from this big old cypress tree. It's just a big ball of roots. All of it. And according to urban legend, if you walk on Marriage Island with your sweetheart, within 30 days, you'll be married. However, it does not say who you'll marry, it just says you'll be married. Gives us a little bit of wiggle room. Now, this part of the river here is known as the Old Mill Crossing. Back in the 1850s, there was a mill sitting right here. It used to grind grain for the settlers. Also, the shallowest part of the entire river was right here under the boat. So those settlers would bring their horse-drawn buggies down here, park them in the river. While the horses drank, they would wash the buggies down with the river water. San Antonio's first self-service car wash. About 50 years before cars were invented. Some forward-thinking people here. Up ahead, folks, you see a bridge, and over the top of that bridge, a very large building. It's got a bullet spire on the right-hand side. That is the oldest and largest courthouse in the state of Texas, the Bexar County Courthouse. That was built way back in 1896. That's an oldie. And to see my next point of interest, you merely need to look to my left high in the sky. If you do that, you can't miss the Tower Life building. This building is owned by the Tower Life Insurance Company. Back in 1927, two guys named Smith and Young paid $3 million to have this tower constructed. That was a lot of money for 1927, $3 million bucks. Smith and Young had big plans for this tower. They planned to open it in 1929 and then sell it real fast and get rich. However, in American history, 1929 was a bad year. The stock market crashed. Great Depression was just around the corner. Nobody had a job, so nobody had money to buy this tower. Smith and Young were forced to sell it at auction price. $3 million bucks to build it. All they got out of this tower was $250,000. So the other day I Googled it, and according to Google, this tower is worth today more than $500 million. That's more like it. What I like about the building, the neo-Gothic architecture. See these arches near the bottom here? Look just about the arches there at the faces in the wall. Those funny faces are called grotesques, and they're put up there to drive away evil spirits, to ward off all those demons. Now take a look at the tower, way up there at the base of the flag. In the dark, you can still see the gargoyles sticking their heads out there.
Very cool.
That's also part of that neo-Gothic architecture. That tower up there to the base of the flag, 403 feet. That makes that tower the tallest octagonal high-rise in the U.S. One point in history, that was the tallest structure west of the Mississippi River. On my right here, a very beautiful building known as the International Center. Up until 1988, this was the main public library for all of San Antonio. Since '88, this has been the headquarters for NAFTA, North American Free Trade Agreement, U.S., Canada, and Mexico. And folks, we are now leaving behind us the natural part of the river, the part that's been here for probably thousands of years. Nobody really knows. We're about to enter what's known as a man-made flood channel. This flood channel was built because back in 1921, there was a horrible flood up inside the Riverwalk. Took a lot of lives, destroyed a lot of property. In fact, that was the flood that caused the businessmen to want to make a sewer out of the river. That flood of 1921. But the Army Corps of Engineers, once and for all, stopped the flooding up inside the Riverwalk by taking this piece of raw land here and digging a channel down through here, using this channel not only to straighten the river out, but also divert floodwaters away from the Riverwalk. And it must work, because the channel opened in 1929. Now one flood inside the Riverwalk isn't open. Now, y'all might remember when we first started doing this tour, we talked about how deep the water was inside the Riverwalk. Anybody recall how deep that was? 3 feet. Very good. It's a lot different out here in this man-made flood channel. The water here is 15 feet deep. It's 30 up to the street level. And you can tell by looking at the walls on both sides, very high, very steep. Custom built for flooding. A lot of folks want to know where this river gets its start.
Yeah.
It actually gets its start in Colorado in the Rocky Mountains as an underground spring. It comes down through Colorado underground into Texas, and just before it reaches San Antonio, right up here about 2 miles up the river, straight ahead of us, empties into a very large underground lake known as the Edwards Aquifer. That's where San Antonio gets its drinking water. About a mile up the river here, comes up through the ground on the campus of the Incarnate Word University. Snakes on down through San Antonio, just south of the city. Meets up with the Guadalupe River. From there, it takes another 145 mile trip down to the Gulf of Mexico. Very, very storied little river. I want to show you guys something now. A very, very beautiful structure in San Antonio. It's right here on my left. This is actually San Antonio's main plaza. It's been around since 1731. Now, if you look between the trees here up over the stairwell, you're going to get a glimpse of the very old and the very beautiful San Fernando Cathedral. Right through there. It sits right on Main Plaza. Isn't that beautiful? San Fernando Cathedral is the oldest cathedral in the United States. Yeah, they started building that in 1731, finished it 24 years later, 1755. It's still a working cathedral. You can get up any day of the week, go to services there, or get up any day of the week and get married in the oldest cathedral, San Fernando Cathedral. And speaking of old, directly in front of us is a great big old tree. This is a big bald cypress tree, and this bald cypress is over 400 years old. Most of the trees on the Riverwalk are less than 75 years. That makes this big old bald cypress tree not only the biggest tree, but the oldest tree on the entire Riverwalk. That right there is the granddaddy of them all. What do you think? Could you climb that tree? I don't know. That's a pretty big tree. You know, we have a couple of minutes here, so real quickly I'm going to tell you what the river used to look like in the old days, before they dug a trench down through here and created a channel. It's always came from my left and gone to my right. But back in the old days, when this was a piece of land here, the river made a left-hand turn and went in for what we call the Riverwalk today. The Riverwalk is in the shape of a horseshoe. Goes in, makes that complete horseshoe, comes out where we came out down here. But instead of turning right like we did, it turns left, heads towards the Gulf of Mexico. When I say they straightened the river out, that's what they did. The river now comes down through here, bypasses both points of the Riverwalk, heads straight on down to the Gulf of Mexico. And we get about 3 or 4 floods a year coming down this channel. Floodwaters cannot go inside the Riverwalk. They're not allowed to, because the Army Corps of Engineers installed floodgate number 3 just ahead of us. As we cross under the green partition, look up, you'll see a rubber bumper. That's the bottom of floodgate number 3. On command, this big old door starts to lower it, kind of like a garage door. It takes about 15 minutes for that 2.5-ton door to drop, right here. Once it drops and locks in place, it doesn't matter how much flooding is happening behind us in the channel under, because inside the Riverwalk, never deeper than 3 feet, thanks to floodgate 3. They do test that door a couple times a year, make sure it works. No surprises. I briefly touched on the flood of 1921 up inside the Riverwalk here. You might have wondered how much the water got during that flood. After all, this is a pretty small river, right? How much water can it generate? I'm going to show you right now. On my left here, a building that opened just before the flood of 1921. In fact, 2 months before it opened. Over the flood, this is when this building opened. Back then it was a CPS building, City Public Service. Today this building is known as the Drury Inn and Suites Hotel. About 10 feet off the sidewalk, you'll see a bank of windows, all lit up real bright. Blue curtains about halfway up. Just above those windows, a series of small shields running along the face of the building, way up here. Up to those small shields, that's how high the floodwaters rose in that flood of 1921. Way up there. That means that every car, every truck, every bus, every single pedestrian on the bridge above us right now would have been underwater during that flood of 1921, including us. It might be a little river, but it sure can put out the water. What's up? On my right here, the very beautiful Aztec Theater. The Aztec is one of 8 original Mayan-themed theaters built in the state of Texas back in the 1920s. However, the other 7 are gone. Aztec is the last remaining Mayan-themed theater in the state. I love that warrior's head up there. That is so cool. Opened in 1926, showing black and white silent movies. Today, live entertainment on stage at the Aztec. And folks, up ahead of us, another famous little bridge. In fact, this is probably the most famous bridge on the entire Riverwalk right here. Unofficially, locals call this little bridge Selena's Bridge, in honor of Selena Quintanilla Perez, the Tejano singer. Y'all see that movie, Selena, starring Jennifer Lopez? Wasn't that a great movie? If you saw the movie, you might recognize this little bridge. Because in that movie, Jennifer Lopez and Selena sat right here on the front lip of this bridge with her brand new husband, Chris, and she told him, "This is the first time in my life I feel like I'm free, like I can fly." Bitty bitty bumble. Well, Jennifer Lopez and company were in San Antonio filming Selena. They stayed at my favorite hotel. Coincidentally, happens to be on my left here. I love this hotel. This is La Mansion del Rio, or Mansion on the River. Recently, Hotel Magazine rated La Mansion del Rio in the top 10 of the finest hotels in America. It's also in the top 100 of the finest hotels in the world. Its restaurant, Las Canarias, rated number 1 for hotel restaurants in the city of San Antonio. Kind of hard to believe this building is 159 years old. 1853 it was built. I hope I look that good when I'm 150 no more. La Mancha del Rio, mansion on the river. Folks, what we're going to do now, we're going to look at something very odd, very weird. Ready for this? Okay, just after we get under the bridge, I invite everyone to look to my left. Check this building out, especially way up near the tip top. This building will appear to have only one side. Is this a one-sided building? You be the judge. But you got to look high, way up in the very tip top. What do you think? Is that a one-sided building? Actually, if you've never seen an optical illusion before, you can't say that anymore. You just saw one. That one-sided building is really a three-sided building. That is the Nix Hospital, N-I-X. Nix opened in 1930, first hospital in Texas with air conditioning. Most important in Texas. So did y'all get a chance to see the Alamo? No? Who has not seen the Alamo yet? FYI, for those who have not seen the Alamo, or those who want to see it again, Alamo closes every day at 5:30. It takes about an hour to walk around inside. Okay? There's a lot of folks that come to San Antonio just to see the Alamo. What they do is park the car on the street up above and walk down here to the Riverwalk. They start walking back and forth on the Riverwalk looking for the Alamo. They think it sits right in the water. Then when they can't find it, they get frustrated. They start looking around for somebody to give them directions on how to find the Alamo. They usually find me. I guess I look intelligent. Got them fooled. Then I gotta tell them, I'm sorry guys, the Alamo's about a block away from the Riverwalk. And this is the best way to get to the Alamo from the Riverwalk, right here. On my left is the Hyatt Regency Hotel. Look close, you see a set of doors going in and out of the Hyatt Regency. Walk through these doors, follow the walkway straight ahead, go 2 steps and look across the street, front door of the Alamo. About a 3-minute walk up through the Hyatt Regency Hotel. Make sure if you take that walk, you got a camera, it's on, ready. Lots of waterfalls up through there, lush vegetation, like a tropical island. Just on the other side of the bridge here, my right-hand side, a beautiful red brick building known locally as the Casino Club. I'm going to let you guys in on a little secret. There's never been a casino in this building. Germans built this in 1927 as a social club. Today it's a restaurant below, up above apartments. Back in 1977 on TV, you might have seen a very important miniseries. It's called Roots. Author Alex Haley wrote Roots, the novel, right up here in the Casino Club, the building that has no casino. Anybody on board like to eat? If you like to eat, raise your hand. I'm raising both of mine. In fact, and a foot. I love to snack. If you like to eat, you're in the right spot. This is what we call River Square right here. Those of us who live in San Antonio know if you want good food and lots of it, that's where you need to go, right here, River Square. Anything from a big juicy Texas steak, the Tex-Mex food, barbecue, cowboy food, Mexican food, Irish food, Italian food, Greek food, seafood, Mediterranean food, Brazilian food, Chinese food, Cajun food, sushi, American food, and lots of ice cream. It's right here in River Square. Some of the best food in Texas happens right here in River Square. Y'all see these boats on either side of the river here? These are called dinner boats. Well, these guys are actually going to eat while they're getting a tour. Unlike you guys are sitting while you get a tour, these guys get to eat. How much is that? You have to reserve. Now here on the left side, you can actually walk in off the sidewalk at Cafe Lake and sit down, have dinner, and get a tour. Only place on the river you can do that. Every place else is reserved ahead of time. These are called dinner boats. Now back in the year 1945, you could not find one single restaurant open down here on the Riverwalk. There just wasn't any. 1946, everything changed when Casa Rio Mexican restaurant on my right here became the first restaurant to open its doors and serve food to the public down here on the Riverwalk. First one also to offer dinner cruises to the public. That's what we saw back there. Those dinner cruises turned into what we're doing right now, taking tours. So I guess you can say we owe all this to Casa Rio Mexican restaurant. First restaurant on the Riverwalk. Look where they started. Thank you, Casa Rio. That is, by the way, my favorite restaurant. Almost. Anybody on board considering moving to San Antonio? We have somebody here who says, I might want to move to San Antonio. Maybe. Say a few years down the line, you decide you want to move out of your hometown, but you're going to need a great place to stay, a great place to live. You might remember 2012, the beautiful, awesome city of San Antonio, but you'll need some information on the city before you move here, right? I wouldn't move anywhere without info on the city. What you need to do, go to your computer, type in www.sachamber.com. You'll get this building right here on my left, the San Antonio Chamber of Commerce. They'll send you all the information on the city of San Antonio. Even if you're not going to move here, they'll send you all the information you want to know about San Antonio. sachamber.com. Anybody on board remember the year 1968? Anybody trying to forget 1968? That's more like it. If you raised your hand and said, yep, I'm trying to forget 68, I wouldn't understand. Because I was around in 68. It was a horrible year. A lot of bad things happened. But here in San Antonio, nothing but good was happening. Because the good people of San Antonio were actually dancing in the streets in 1968. And why were they dancing? Because San Antonio was celebrating its 250th birthday. And they did it in grand fashion. They had a birthday party, inviting the entire world, and they called that birthday party a World's Fair. They put the World's Fairgrounds to my right beyond this waterfall. More than 7 million people came to San Antonio for that 1968 World's Fair. Most of the folks that came to the fair made their way down to the Riverwalk. And they did like we did. They fell in love with it. They kept coming back year after year after year. And it wasn't long before the Riverwalk became the #2 attraction in the entire state of Texas. Not far behind #1, which is, of course, the Alamo. #1 attraction in all of Texas is the Alamo. Any fans of the TV show Grey's Anatomy on board? Okay, there's one up front. I'll balance it out by putting one on this side. Two of us. Supposedly, Grey's Anatomy takes place in Seattle, Washington. Anybody been to Seattle, Washington? Was it raining, sir? Standard answer, yep. It's always raining in Seattle. 366 days a year. So during the opening credits to Grey's Anatomy, they flash on the screen the skyline of Seattle. The very center of that skyline sticking up is the Space Needle. Space Needle was built for the 1962 World's Fair in Seattle. Take a look to my right above this rock ridge. You'll see San Antonio's answer to the Space Needle. 6 years later, for their 1968 World's Fair, it's called the Tower of the Americas. Tower of the Americas is 622 feet tall. It's got a revolving restaurant up there near the top, kind of like the Space Needle. Makes one complete turn every 60 minutes. Also, up there above the restaurant is my favorite place to look at the city of San Antonio. It's an observation deck. On a clear day, not like today, but a clear day, you can see about 360 degrees around about 50 miles in the distance on a clear day. San Antonio and Texas is really flat. You can see a long ways from that tower up there. And at 622 feet, that makes the Tower of the Americas the second highest freestanding tower in the U.S. Can anyone tell me the tallest freestanding tower in the U.S.? Sears is actually a building. Sears is a building, not a tower, even though they call it a tower. Anybody know the tallest freestanding tower?
Twin Tower. The one in Vegas, right?
Yes, Las Vegas. Stratosphere. You guys got together and worked out together. Both of you guys got it right. Stratosphere is 1,114 feet tall, nearly twice as tall as our Tower of Americas. This just goes to show you, not everything's bigger in Texas. On my left here is the beautiful Lila Cockrell Theater. And above the Cockrell Theater, you'll see what I call a virtual masterpiece. And what this is a mosaic. And this mosaic is entitled The Confluence of Civilizations. What the confluence does, it honors the coming together and meeting in the middle of the eastern and the western hemispheres as friends. What a novel concept. I'll tell you more about that mosaic in about a minute or so, right after we come out of the Convention Center Lagoon. Now, taking this big old boat into the lagoon guarantees us we're going to do some bumping around. So please make sure all hands and arms are inside the blue rails, especially my left side over here. We come real close to the rocks. This is the Henry B. Gonzalez Convention Center, named in honor of the first Spanish American elected to the House of Representatives way back in 1961. San Antonio's own Mr. Henry B. Gonzalez. This is also the largest, most modern convention center in the entire state of Texas. Well over 1 million square feet. And I've got to add to that, to me, the most beautiful. How often do you get to see a convention center that looks like this?
I'm a photo, Mommy. Stop it.
Moving right along, folks, our next adventure is off to my left front here. You'll see a couple of green rubber bumpers growing out of the water. Now we got to go between those bumpers. But as you can see, big boat, bad angle, it's dark. This is where we're going to bump around, so please make sure all hands and arms are inside the blue rails. I cannot drive through here without bumping at least one time. If that's got you worried, reach down and grab that seat belt and snug it up just a little tighter. Also, y'all let me know when we get to the other side so I can open my eyes again. I've got a blind here, guys. You have to guide me. Should I go left? Right? Left? Did you say left? Or am I right? Are you right or left? All right. Or left. Okay, guys, here we go. We got to have one bump coming up right about now. Not exactly your 8-second Brahma bull ride, is it? But it's the best we got, and we do the best with what we have. Okay, the confluence of civilizations, that mosaic, is now on my right. The artist who created this masterpiece, he was from Mexico. His name was Juan O'Gorman. And Juan O'Gorman donated this masterpiece to San Antonio for that 1968 World's Fair. The framework around this masterpiece, 130 feet wide by 22 feet high. Inside that framework, more than 400,000 1 inch by 1 inch, all natural colored mosaic tile. Took Mr. O'Gorman maybe 3 years to gather all the materials. Once he got it all back home to Mexico, less than 2 years to create that masterpiece. So in my book, that makes Mr. Juan O'Gorman nothing less than a genius. Anyone can create this masterpiece in under 2 years deserves to be called a genius. Juan O'Gorman. Juan had a Spanish mother and an Irish father. What a great combination. You know what that means? Every St. Patrick's Day, green tequila.
Yeah.
No matter what color tequila is, it's good. Anybody on board this evening from Texas? If you're a Texan, let's see your hat. We've got a few. Got a few. How about San Antonio? Anybody from San Antonio? We have a local right over here. Got a couple of them. Okay. San Antonio is the 7th largest city in the U.S. population-wise. Second largest in Texas. Anyone know the largest city in Texas? Very good, guys. Houston. In fact, about 10 months ago, Houston passed up Chicago for number 3 in the nation. Next up to Los Angeles. Now myself, I live in San Antonio, but I wasn't born here. In fact, I wasn't born in Texas. Los Angeles? No. Anybody have a guess where I was born? He said Los Angeles. Nope. Arizona, good guess, but no. Anybody else? Anybody else? Oklahoma?
India.
India?
Mumbai.
India? Actually, I was born in Arkansas. People ask me all the time, how come you don't have an Arkansas accent? Everybody from Arkansas has accents. Well, about 25 years ago, I went into the recording business and also into radio as a disc jockey. And I had to go to school because they told me, you'll never work up north because Yankees don't want to hear a southern drawl. So I had to go to school to lose my southern drawl. I haven't talked that way since. Been talking like a Yankee since then. My mama was a full-blooded Cherokee Indian from Oklahoma. My daddy a full-blooded redneck farmer from Arkansas. Now you put those two together and you get me. Which is kind of scary, and probably also a couple states it's illegal. Maybe even Texas. Harrison. Boone County.
Wow, mira esas luces. Está bonito.
As you can see on my right hand side, all these people are waiting to get on a tour boat. Great place to buy your ticket right here from this neck of the woods. Same ticket price, same tour in fact. You just get a different boat driver. We all tell the story just a little different. How you doing, Joe? Folks, straight ahead of us is without a doubt my favorite spot on the entire Riverwalk. This is the River Center Mall. I tell you what, if you like to shop and you like to browse, this might be your brand new favorite spot in the entire world. River Center Mall has got over 1 million square feet of shopping space, 125 different shops on 3 different levels, anything from food to souvenirs to high-tech boutiques, a comedy club, beautiful, beautiful IMAX theater. In fact, it's a 3D IMAX theater. Dallas Cowboy store, Starbucks, just about anything you're looking for right here in the River Center Mall. But if you've got kids and you don't want to go shopping because you don't want to drag your kids from store to store to store, that's no fun for anyone. Not to worry. Up here on the second deck, Daddy Daycare will watch your kids all day long if you like. Only mall in the world I know that wraps around the lagoon has a built-in Daddy Daycare center. River Center Mall, my favorite. I like to come down here and get some of that ice cream inside the mall there. Come out here and grab one of these chairs. Just watch the boats go by. Nice. So I realize that some of you folks may have just arrived in San Antonio today, or maybe late last night, maybe even yesterday. You haven't had a chance to get out and look around the city. What you have seen so far of San Antonio, the city, what do y'all think? Thumbs up or thumbs down? How's the city? A lot of thumbs up. How about the weather? Thumbs up or thumbs down on the weather? I can't believe that young lady in the front there had her thumb going east and west. Young lady, this is for you. This morning I got up and I grabbed the newspaper and I flipped it open to the weather page. Started looking at temperatures around the United States. Anybody on board this evening from the beautiful state of Idaho? No? Well, maybe you should count your blessings. Because newspaper said this morning, coldest place in the U.S. last night was a place called Stanley, Idaho, at 17 degrees. So it could be worse. You could be in Idaho and Stanley at 17 degrees. Now just after we cross under this bridge here, look to my right side above the sidewalk. You'll see an 8-foot bronze statue. This statue is of a gentleman known as Saint Anthony de Padua. Saint Anthony was a 12th century patron saint of small children in Portugal. Now around here we know Saint Anthony as San Antonio de Padua. That's where we got the name of our city and the river we're on this evening. From a patron saint named Saint Anthony, or, if you will, San Antonio. About 300 years ago, the folks who lived along this river, they called themselves the Payaya Indians. And the Payaya Indians refer to this gorgeous little river here as the Yana Guana River. Yana Guana, this place of clear running water. Now, one of the reasons this river stays as clear as it is right now is directly in front of us. We saw it about 10 minutes ago. It's that waterfall. But this is more than your basic everyday ordinary waterfall. This is actually a water filtration system. Takes the dirty river water in, purifies it, sends it back out again clean. More photos taken in front of the waterfall than anywhere else in the entire river. And locals call that waterfall a waterfall. It's the only name it's got. Not a lot of imagination, but the only name it's got. Now straight ahead of us, high above the trees, you're going to see a building that does have a really good name. That is the Hilton Palacio del Rio Hotel, or the Palace on the River. That hotel has a great story behind it. I'm going to tell you that story. Listen close because you may not believe what you hear. That 1968 World's Fair right here in San Antonio was only 7 months away from opening its doors to the public when the city began to get just a little bit anxious because San Antonio didn't think there were enough hotel rooms in the city to accommodate all the folks they expected to come to the fair. So local builder H.B. Zachary told San Antonio, I will build you a 500-room hotel on that vacant lot over there. And the doors to that brand new hotel, they're going to be open before the World's Fair opens their doors in 7 months. I guarantee it. Then Zachary added this. If these doors are not open before the fair opens in 7 months, San Antonio pays me $1 bill for the entire hotel. So H.B. Zachary proposes to build a 500-room hotel in 7 months when it usually takes 4 to 5 years. Okay, as it turned out, H.B. Zachary company built this hotel, all 500 rooms, in 202 consecutive working days, or 7 months. And the doors to the Palace on the River, they opened 48 hours before the World's Fair opened their doors. Zachary did it. He built a hotel in 7 months. And doing that, landed it right in the middle of the record books. According to the Guinness Book of World Records, the Hilton is the fastest built hotel of its size ever. And as a footnote to that story, when Zachary was finished building this hotel, he trashed the plans, never built another one like it. This is what you call a one-of-a-kind hotel. The Hilton Palacio del Rio Hotel, or the Palace on the River.
How long did that build?
202 consecutive working days, 7 months. Isn't that a gorgeous hotel? It's the only one like it in the entire world. You'll never see another one like it no matter where you go. On that note, folks, we've come to the end of our tour. I want to thank you all for coming along. I really hope you had a good time out here in the river. Please look around and pick up everything you brought aboard. Don't leave anything behind. Also, don't forget, for a job well done, your driver does appreciate your tips. That's all you're in my living. Two small favors to ask. Please remain seated before you dock the boat. As you're walking off, be very careful. The boat's going to be bobbing up and down slightly. Once again, taking over visiting San Antonio, the Alamo City, and the great state of Texas. Yeehaw! Yeehaw!